Article 310.15B of the National Electrical Code, or NEC, outlines specific conditions that mandate the installation of a listed and labeled surge protective device, commonly referred to as an SPD. These conditions are designed to enhance electrical safety and protect equipment from transient overvoltage events. These events can stem from various sources, including lightning strikes and utility switching operations. It is crucial for electrical professionals and building owners to understand these conditions to ensure code compliance and safeguard electrical systems. The first condition pertains to service disconnects located downstream of an overhead service entrance. Specifically, if the service disconnect is situated after the point where overhead service conductors enter the building, a surge protective device is required. This placement helps mitigate surges that might propagate from the overhead lines into the building's electrical distribution system. The second condition involves the proximity of overhead conductors to a building or structure. If overhead conductors are located within 10 feet of a building or structure, an SPD is necessary. The rationale behind this requirement is that conductors in close proximity to a building are more susceptible to inducing voltage surges within the building's electrical system, particularly during lightning events. The third condition relates to the service size. For service equipment rated 1200 amps or less, the NEC mandates the installation of an SPD. This amperage threshold is significant because it encompasses a wide range of residential and small to medium-sized commercial installations. The fourth condition focuses on secondary conductors. If the secondary conductors are not underground, a surge protective device is required. Underground secondary conductors offer a degree of natural surge suppression due to the Earth's grounding effect. However, overhead secondary conductors are more exposed to atmospheric disturbances and therefore necessitate additional surge protection. The fifth condition concerns the length of the overhead secondary line from the transformer to the building or structure. If this length exceeds 100 feet, an SPD is mandated. Longer overhead spans increase the potential for voltage surges to develop and propagate along the conductors, making surge protection essential. The sixth condition addresses conductors terminating in conduit or cable tray. If the overhead conductors terminate in a conduit or cable tray that enters the building or structure, a surge protective device is required. Conduit and cable trays can act as pathways for surges to enter a building, so additional protection is necessary. The seventh condition applies to equipment installed outdoors. If electrical equipment is installed outdoors in the building or structure, an SPD is required. Outdoor equipment is more exposed to environmental factors, including lightning and other surge-inducing events, thus necessitating surge protection. The eighth condition involves buildings with assembly occupancies. For buildings that contain assembly occupancies, such as theaters, auditoriums, and churches, an SPD is mandated. These types of buildings typically house a large number of occupants, making electrical safety paramount. Surge protection helps ensure the safety of both occupants and equipment. The ninth condition pertains to critical operation structures. For buildings designated as critical operation structures, such as hospitals and emergency response centers, an SPD is required. These facilities must maintain continuous operation during emergencies, and surge protection helps safeguard vital electrical systems and equipment. In addition to these specific conditions outlined in Article 310.15B, there are additional considerations for SPD installation and usage. Firstly, the SPD must be rated for the type of surge anticipated, such as lightning or utility switching. Different types of surges have different characteristics, and the SPD must be capable of effectively suppressing them. Secondly, the SPD must be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. Proper installation is crucial for ensuring that the SPD functions correctly and provides the intended level of protection. Thirdly, the SPD must be inspected and maintained regularly to ensure proper operation. Over time, SPD can degrade due to repeated surge events, and regular inspection and maintenance help identify and address any potential issues. It is important to note that the NEC is a dynamic document that is updated periodically to reflect changes in technology and best practices. It is essential for electrical professionals to stay current with the latest edition of the NEC to ensure compliance. Article 310.15B 4 is just one of many sections of the NEC that address surge protection. Other relevant articles include those that cover surge protection for specific types of equipment and systems, such as fire alarm systems and emergency systems. Furthermore, it is important to understand the different types of surge protective devices available on the market. These devices vary in terms of their voltage rating, surge current capacity, and other performance characteristics. Selecting the appropriate SPD for a given application requires careful consideration of these factors. In summary, Article 310.15B 4 of the NEC mandates the use of a listed and labeled surge protective device under a range of specific conditions. These conditions include service disconnects downstream of overhead service entrances, overhead conductors located within 10 feet of a building or structure, service equipment rated 1200 amps or less, secondary conductors that are not underground, overhead secondary line lengths exceeding 100 feet, conductors terminating in conduit or cable tray, equipment installed outdoors, buildings with assembly occupancies, and critical operations structures. Additionally, the SPD must be rated for the type of surge anticipated, installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions, and inspected and maintained regularly. Adherence to these requirements is essential for ensuring electrical safety and protecting equipment from transient overvoltage events. When determining the correct SPD for a specific application, firstly assess the voltage requirements of the electrical system. SPD are rated for specific voltage levels such as 120 volts, 240 volts, 277 volts, or 480 volts. Selecting an SPD with the appropriate voltage rating is critical for proper operation and protection. Secondly, evaluate the surge current capacity needed. Surge current capacity, measured in kiloamps, indicates the maximum surge current that the SPD can safely handle. The required surge current capacity depends on factors such as the location of the building, the type of electrical equipment being protected, and the frequency of surge events in the area. Thirdly, consider the type of SPD technology. There are several types of SPD technologies available, including metal oxide varistors, or MOVs, silicon avalanche diodes, or SES, and gas discharge tubes, or GDTs. Each technology has its own advantages and disadvantages in terms of performance, cost, and lifespan. Fourthly, assess the SPD protection modes. SPD can provide protection for different modes of electrical surges, such as line to neutral, line to ground, and neutral to ground. Selecting an SPD that protects all relevant modes is important for comprehensive surge protection. Fifthly, look for an SPD with appropriate listings and certifications. SPD should be listed by recognized testing laboratories such as Underwriters Laboratories, or ALL, or Intertek, to ensure that they meet safety and performance standards. Sixthly, consider the SPD warranty and lifespan. SPD have a limited lifespan and may need to be replaced periodically. Checking the SPD warranty and expected lifespan helps ensure that it will provide reliable protection over time. Seventhly, think about the SPD ease of installation and maintenance. SPD should be easy to install and maintain, with clear instructions and accessible components. This simplifies the installation process and facilitates routine maintenance. Eighthly, analyze the SPD diagnostic features. Some SPD have diagnostic features that indicate the status of the device, such as LED indicators or remote monitoring capabilities. These features can help identify potential problems and ensure that the SPD is functioning correctly. Ninthly, account for the SPD environmental ratings. If the SPD is to be installed in a harsh environment, such as outdoors or in an industrial setting, it is important to select an SPD with appropriate environmental ratings such as NEMA 4 or I65. Tenthly, compare the cost of different SPD. SPD vary in cost depending on their features, performance, and brand. Comparing the cost of different SPD helps ensure that you are getting the best value for your money. When installing a surge protective device, firstly, ensure that the electrical system is de-energized before beginning the installation. This is crucial for safety and prevents the risk of electrical shock. Secondly, follow the manufacturer's instructions for proper installation. The manufacturer's instructions provide detailed guidance on how to install the SPD correctly, including wiring diagrams and torque specifications. Thirdly, use the correct wiring methods and materials. The wiring methods and materials used to connect the SPD to the electrical system should comply with the NEC and local codes. Fourthly, ensure that the SPD is properly grounded. Proper grounding is essential for the SPD to function correctly and provide effective surge protection. Fifthly, protect the SPD from physical damage. The SPD should be installed in a location where it is protected from physical damage, such as impact, vibration, or exposure to moisture. Sixthly, label the SPD clearly. The SPD should be clearly labeled to indicate its function and purpose. This helps prevent accidental disconnection or tampering. Seventhly, document the SPD installation. The SPD installation should be documented, including the date of installation, the manufacturer and model number of the SPD, and the location of the SPD. Eighthly, inspect the SPD regularly. The SPD should be inspected regularly to ensure that it is functioning correctly and that there are no signs of damage or deterioration. Ninthly, test the SPD periodically. The SPD should be tested periodically to verify that it is providing the intended level of surge protection. Tenthly, replace the SPD when it reaches the end of its lifespan. SPD have a limited lifespan and may need to be replaced periodically. The manufacturer's instructions typically provide guidance on when to replace the SPD. In addition to these installation considerations, there are also maintenance considerations for surge protective devices. Firstly, visually inspect the SPD regularly for signs of damage or deterioration, such as cracks, discoloration, or corrosion. Secondly, check the SPD diagnostic indicators, if any, to ensure that the device is functioning correctly. Thirdly, test the SPD periodically using a surge tester to verify that it is providing the intended level of surge protection. Fourthly, clean the SPD regularly to remove dust and debris that could accumulate on the device. Fifthly, tighten any loose connections on the SPD to ensure proper electrical contact. Sixthly, replace any damaged or deteriorated components of the SPD, such as fuses or surge suppression elements. Seventhly, keep the area around the SPD clear of obstructions to allow for proper ventilation and cooling. Eighthly, follow the manufacturer's instructions for any specific maintenance procedures or recommendations. Ninthly, document all maintenance activities performed on the SPD, including the date, description of the work performed, and any parts replaced. Tenthly, train personnel on proper SPD maintenance procedures to ensure that the devices are maintained correctly. Surge protection is an essential aspect of electrical safety that helps protect equipment and personnel from the damaging effects of transient overvoltage events. By understanding the requirements of Article 310.15B of the NEC and following best practices for SPD selection, installation, and maintenance, electrical professionals and building owners can enhance the reliability and safety of electrical systems. When dealing with electrical installations in Minnesota, there are specific considerations to keep in mind. Firstly, be aware of Minnesota's specific electrical codes and regulations. While Minnesota generally follows the NEC, there may be local amendments or interpretations that apply. Check with the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry for the most up-to-date information. Secondly, consider the climate. Minnesota experiences a wide range of temperatures and weather conditions, including cold winters, hot summers, and frequent thunderstorms. This can impact the performance and lifespan of electrical equipment, so it is important to select equipment that is rated for the local climate. Thirdly, pay attention to grounding. Proper grounding is especially important in Minnesota due to the prevalence of lightning strikes. Ensure that all electrical systems are properly grounded to protect against surge events. Fourthly, be aware of the potential for ice and snow accumulation on overhead conductors. Ice and snow can add significant weight to conductors, potentially causing them to sag or break. Inspect overhead conductors regularly and take steps to mitigate the risk of ice and snow accumulation. Fifthly, consider the impact of cold weather on batteries. Batteries used in emergency systems or backup power supplies may experience reduced performance in cold weather. Implement measures to keep batteries warm, such as using insulated enclosures or battery warmers. Sixthly, be aware of the potential for moisture intrusion in underground installations. Moisture can damage electrical equipment and create safety hazards. Use waterproof connectors and sealants to prevent moisture from entering underground installations. Seventhly, consider the impact of agricultural activities on electrical systems in rural areas. Agricultural activities such as irrigation and fertilizer application can expose electrical equipment to corrosive substances. Select equipment that is resistant to corrosion and protective from exposure to agricultural chemicals. Eighthly, be aware of the potential for wildlife interference with electrical systems. Wildlife, such as squirrels, birds, and rodents, can damage electrical equipment by chewing on wires or nesting in enclosures. Implement measures to deter wildlife from interfering with electrical systems. Ninthly, consider the impact of seasonal variations in electricity demand. Electricity demand in Minnesota typically peaks during the summer and winter months due to air conditioning and heating loads. Ensure that electrical systems are adequately sized to handle these peak demands. Tenthly, stay up to date on the latest electrical safety practices and technologies. The electrical industry is constantly evolving, so it is important to stay informed about new safety practices and technologies to ensure the safety of electrical installations.